Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mysteries and Disappearances video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another entry here. This one yet again based on one of your new suggestions. This one having to do with something involving what is considered the biggest missing case from Dickson County. Dickson County is an area there, a city there in Tennessee. In fact, this occurred back in 1987, and to this day, there is still very little clues, very little leads, so little info in terms of finding out what happened to this poor young girl. In fact, when I was reading this information, it ties into a theme that has happened throughout some of my videos where it's almost that quick in a flash thing where all of a sudden someone is gone from the face of the earth and never to be seen again, and there's literally no clue as to what happened. It's that tragic circumstance where if but for just a few minutes, there would absolutely be something indicating what happened to this person. That's how little these things happen, like the little time period and the little effort it takes for something to be the biggest mystery in the world. But it has to do with this. You're looking at a picture of her now. It's known as the disappearance of Martha Leanne Green. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the information here and then see if anyone has maybe sometime in the future stuff that could lead to her whereabouts to this day. So here's essentially what happened. Again, you have to go back to 1987, April 15th, and then that's where in an area on Highway 46, that's where this disappearance happened in Dickson County, Tennessee. The girl's name was, again, Martha Leanne Green. She was 17 years old at the time. She was going to a school called Dickson County High School, and on that fateful day, she was actually working as a hostess at a restaurant. In fact, the next day, she was going to be attending a prom with her brother, her twin brother, in fact. And the way the information goes is this. On that night, whenever she was getting off of work, her brother came by in a car that was borrowed from a friend. In fact, this was a 1979 silver Monte Carlo, and it was borrowed from a friend, actually a cousin of theirs, because they both wanted to attend this car to their high school prom. Again, it was going to be the very next night. And so when that happened, she left her job at around 9 p.m. Her brother picked her up there, and then not knowing, unfortunately, that they were about to run out of gas. And so as it happened, they ended up losing gas completely, and it was there at a location, a 2-lane dark road near an area called Pomona Community. Some of you that might live there or near that area know exactly where this would be. But yes, as it turns out, because they ran out of gas, the twin brother decided that he would get some gas. But luckily, there was a family from a nearby church. They were just happening to be coming from that church for the night. They pulled up right next to the car, and apparently they decided to stay and offer help to Leanne, too. In other words, she was going to stay there. Her twin brother was going to go get some gas. And then when he came back, everything was going to be A-okay. Unfortunately, I didn't find any indication as to who this family was and whether they even stuck around afterward. It didn't seem like it, because as it turns out, again, if but for just a few minutes, 15 minutes later, her twin brother, by the way, his name was Lawson, he came back and we had some gas ready to put into the car, and she was gone. That family was gone, she was gone, and there was no whereabouts of her. In fact, her purse was still in the car. The keys were still in the car. There was absolutely no sign of any struggle, but she was 100% gone. She was nowhere to be found. Imagine how that was for that twin brother, Lawson. There he was going out to a nearby gas station, probably walking there, and then when he came back, no less than 15 minutes later, that would have been the last time he ever saw her. Right then and there, with the big expectations that the next night they were going to go together to prom and have so much fun, she was gone, never ever to be seen again. And so obviously there was a search that was done, an investigation that was started. In fact, the local police teamed up with a bunch of searchers from the community. They ended up trying to cover 10 square miles around that area to try to see anything at all as far as what could help out finding her. In fact, they walked into the woods, they checked by in nearby motels, they hit pretty much anything and everything that would constitute witnesses. They called in people, they set up roadblocks. They tried all of this, and it was for 3 days straight. There was even a reward that was offered to try to find the whereabouts of her, and it grew up to 12,500, but there were little to no clues. No one was coming forward to indicate what had happened to Martha Leanne Green. No one knew any information about it that could help out. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it was almost as if she disappeared off the face of the earth, never ever to be seen again. And eventually some clothes were found nearby, but those were not discovered to be hers. There was also a mysterious Ford, a red or wine-colored Ford that was around that area, and police tried to search for it, but they could never do so, like in terms of finding it successfully, at least to see if it had any direct connections to her disappearance. But no, she was gone. People described her as being someone full of life, someone that just was happy all around. She was someone, again, that was just there, just enjoying her time period as a junior in the high school, getting ready to go into the prom and so on, working again as a hostess at such a young age too, there at a restaurant. I think it was a restaurant that was within a hotel, like a Holiday Inn, if I'm not mistaken. But no, it was that sad, tragic situation where just 15 minutes meant the difference of knowing that she was there, safe within the car, and then the next 15 minutes she was gone, and no one ever found her. Now, there was a consideration that maybe she ran off, but no, her parents never really determined that, nor did the police ever really consider that as well. They stated that she was most likely abducted. Who abducted her? Again, no one has been able to discover this. The only closest link to something involving an answer came from an inmate, apparently an inmate in Florida, and I couldn't quite find out who the name of this person was, stated that he had confessed to her murder, like he was the one that did it, and he knew exactly where she was. The problem was, whenever he was questioned on this multiple times, it was very hard for him to recant, to state direct details associated with her kidnapping and her location. In fact, he took her, the investigators, to her spot, like where supposedly she was buried. In fact, he ended up doing this over several spots, but each time that investigators went there, they were not able to find any indication or evidence as to her body. So, in other words, he still remained the main suspect, but he was still not able to provide any proof that led to concrete proof, obviously, like the whereabouts of her body. If you're wondering, like, whatever happened, did they ever get more information on him? As it turns out, he was stabbed to death in prison. So pretty much whatever final details he had as to her whereabouts, I'm thinking that maybe he was doing it, if he was like the actual murderer, maybe he was giving it piecemeal here and there when it comes to information, because maybe he was trying to barter for a smaller sentence, something along those lines. Like, I'll give you information if you reduce my sentence, and that was his way of teasing things. There's that angle. The other angle is he was just making things up and obviously didn't know anything as to her whereabouts and was just being a cruel person and doing so. But either way, whatever information he had absolutely went with him in death whenever he was stabbed to death in prison. Cut to today, and you're looking at least what could be a aged photograph of her. In other words, a doctored photo showcasing what she would look like today. Cut to today, over 30 plus years, and she still hasn't been found. But the investigation is still out there. It again remains the most mysterious case of a disappearance there in Dickson County, and investigators are still trying to figure out, especially on anniversaries, what happened to her. So who knows, maybe one day her disappearance remaining unsolved will actually become solved, and there'll be some association with it, some actual hopeful good news, especially when it comes to, let's say, her being alive. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the information linked to the disappearance of Martha Leanne Green. What about those of you there in the Dickson County area? Maybe if you know more information, maybe if you were there in the 1987 period and you knew about the news that this disappearance made and so on, especially this happening apparently over that time period before Easter Sunday. This would have been something, again, that the mother at that time, who ended up passing away later, never really got final news. But if anybody has more info on a local level, then please post those comments below. That'd be really great to hear. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.